we ready, Ricky? Did Ricky say yes, we're on? Oh, okay. I want to call this virtual special call meeting to order. We're going to start this evening with a roll call. We know ahead of time that Councilman McGee is having difficulty, but it appears Bob Brooks is absent. Carpenter?
Present at home.
Councilman Blicker?
I'm present at home.
Okay. Councilman McGee is not present. Councilman Presnell?
I'm here. I'm at home.
Councilman Toole?
Present from home.
And I'm also at home. So we're going to go ahead and proceed. We have a quorum, and if Councilman McGee can join us, that'll be great, and he can join in the discussions and the vote. Starting with tonight.
Never done this before. So what am I supposed to be doing?
Okay, that's caller number one's apparently David. Is that right? We'll go ahead and start with item number 4, which is the audit review fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019. Would ask Cammie to go ahead and give us a summary of the financial statements that we looked at. So go ahead, Cammie, if you would like to bring us up to date.
Sure. I provided you a copy of the draft 2019 audited financial statements. Those are, again, in draft form currently. Rachel and I are working on the management's discussion and analysis and some of these statistical sections that will be added to the document before it's finalized and submitted for review. What you were provided was the basic financial statements as well as our government-wide financial statements, including the notes. If you haven't reviewed through that already, I would recommend that you start in the notes section. It's a helpful guide to understanding the financial statement presentation. And then once we issue the management's discussion and analysis, will walk you through the statements step by step in what each type of financial statement is and the information you can gain from each statement. Our audit firm this year was Cherry Beckert, and Bonnie Cox was the audit shareholder. She has provided me a PowerPoint to review with you all. So I'm going to go over a summary of the audited results, and then I will email you her PowerPoint presentation since she was not able to be with us in person to present. For 2019, Bonnie stated that Cherry Beckert expects to issue a clean audit opinion, which is what we are used to. It's an unmodified opinion. We will issue it next week, hopefully by June 30th, which would be Tuesday. So we would expect to have you all completed a copy by then, as well as have it posted on our website. And it's also required to be posted on Emma. She said that city management had been proactive and accessible to resolve any issues or things that required investigation. We addressed our 2018 CAFR comments. We had 3 to 4 comments on our 2018. We had to address those. Sorry, light went out. 1 second. Sorry about that. I think they're trying to kick me out the building. We addressed all of our CAFR comments in our 2019 audit as well to make sure that we will continue to receive the award from the GFOA. The auditor's responsibility is to express an opinion about whether the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects in conformity with GAAP. They do a consideration of internal control. I'll give you a few examples of that in a minute, but they do not provide assurance on that. And the overall outcome, again, is what's called an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion, which is the opinion that we want to see every year. There were no material weaknesses noted, nor instances of non-compliance when they did their internal control review. Our federal funds were below $750,000. which is the threshold in determining if we have to have a single audit, which is more detailed, in-depth work related to federal grants received. That is only required if we receive over $750,000, and we did not in 2019. Cherry Beckert encountered no significant difficulties in dealing with management, had no disagreements with management, and stated that no transactions entered into by the city lacked authoritative guidance or consensus, meaning that there were a standard or something that the city followed in each of its transactions. They did review our significant estimates, which is the same ones we've had previously. Allowance for doubtful accounts, that's primarily related to utilities, uncollectible accounts, depreciation of our capital assets, and so that is in all of our operating funds, general, water, sewer, and sanitation. And then the net pension liability is booked, and that includes deferred inflows and outflows, which was added recently in the past few years. The internal controls that they tested in significant audit areas included cash disbursements and expenditures. So they would select a sample of expenses the city had and request all the documentation. And what they do is they walk that through the bid process or the payment process all the way to check issuance. So they'll review an invoices, looking at approvals, et cetera. They also did cash receipts and revenues, so making sure that we're recording revenues in proper accounts and recording them in the proper period. And then they also did a walkthrough of some payroll transactions. So they're taking that from the timesheet all the way up to where we remit direct deposit for a specific employee. They noted no exceptions during the testing of these internal control cycles. There was a new GASB issued, GASB 88. It only required a slight modification to one of our note disclosures, and that has been included in our report. Everything else is the same as the prior year as far as presentation, the look of statements, or anything we were required to disclose. We will have to issue a management representation letter, and that will come from Rachel and myself. And it just asks a few questions about, have we disclosed everything we know of? Are we aware of any material items that haven't been discussed? So we would want to disclose some subsequent events, such as the COVID-19 pandemic as a subsequent event that would be material worth noting in our financial statements, as well as the issuance of the public safety headquarters bond of $10.25 million. So those are just questions they'll ask to make sure we have everything presented in our financials that we need to. They noted no material weaknesses, and that all of their recommendations from the prior year for how to improve our financial statement presentation, that we implemented everything they recommended. And to their knowledge, there were no consultations with any other independent auditors. They have to disclose that. And just a recap, she said that, to make sure that you understood the clean audit opinion is great, and that recommendations and new accounting standards are proactively implemented by the city's management, and that she is available for listening to council. So if you have any questions I'm unable to answer, or you would just like to contact her directly, this PowerPoint will include Bonnie's email and phone number contact information, as well as Megan Frazier. She performed all of the detailed testing work. This was the first time we've done a virtual audit work through, so it was certainly interesting, one we'll remember, and hopefully we don't have to repeat in the future. But we do plan to wrap up by Tuesday of next week. I was going to go through just a few little bullet points, some questions that have been asked in the past, things you may be interested in. We will be submitting this for our 38th CAFRA award. So we received our 37th award for 2018, going for number 38. We did have a prior period adjustment in this report. You will see that when you review the notes in the capital asset section. It was just to make sure we had included all of our roads, rights of way, other pieces that the city doesn't actually pay for per se as buying a road, but we use materials and things to capture a road. So we did include that. The result of that is just an increase to our capital items and a small increase to our depreciation expense. So overall, a positive change. And we have approximately $331,000 in surplus that will be transferred to our capital projects fund, and that maintains the required 15% reserve in our general fund. And as always, we appreciate the support of administration as well as city council in making sure that we maintain the highest professional standards in our financial reporting. And that's all I have, unless you have any additional detailed questions. Again, I'll send you this presentation as well as the final report when it's complete.
Tammy, what was the excess fund again? I'm sorry.
The surplus that
Yeah,
will be
so-
transferred to the capital projects fund is
Yeah, how much was that?
331,000.
131, okay.
331.
Oh, 331, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, good, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And I guess one question, when you talk about the grants over the 750,000 that would have to get a single audit, I guess
Yes, ma'am.
that's a good thing and a bad thing too, right? Because we're not getting a lot of grants in, or
Yes, ma'am. Grants are great, but they do also come with some additional requirements. So
Right,
it's additional
right.
work on staff to maintain all of those requirements and make sure we're in compliance, as well as then there's an audit portion where they come in and they have to verify that all those
Yeah.
steps have been met.
okay, good, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Cammie, I have a question. Looking at the report, and you don't necessarily have to flip there, but it was on page 8. It showed in the general fund that the net change in fund balance was a negative 450. And that was, I knew that based on information that you and staff had provided at the end of the year, that we were supposed to have a surplus, not a negative amount. So maybe I'm just reading the report wrong, but it seems to indicate that we had a deficit of 450 in the general fund. Can you
Yeah,
comment
and
on
some of that is result of the lease purchase assets are presented. So they are actually presented as an expense. We budget for the lease purchase payment, but if you'll look in the statements for the general fund, those are presented as an expense for the entire asset. So instead of us budgeting for a $60,000 vehicle, we budget for 1/5 of a lease purchase payment for that vehicle. And so some of that is the difference. And you'll have to go to the back supporting schedules. And if you'll look for, it'll show budget 0, and then the expense will be significant, especially in areas like public safety where they renew their fleet every year. You'll see more of an impact there.
Okay. I'll study that in further detail. I hadn't had a chance to print it off. I'm just trying to look at it electronically. So I'll do that. Yeah, I noticed that public safety had an $800,000 bust in the budget, and I assumed that was lease purchase.
Majority of that is lease purchase. There's some personnel cost, and we have to disclose that in the notes. So you'll see that in the, it's in the draft currently, but I revised and added some additional detail to support that, and it'll be in the final presentation.
Okay, thanks.
Sure, we have to explain any of those governmental funds that are over budget, provide an explanation, and we'll do that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Cammie, is this complete what you need from council regarding the financial audit?
Yes, this is it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. That was very good. Appreciate it. Sharon, would you show that Council Member McGee joined us just prior to Cammie starting her presentation? So welcome.
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving on now to item number 5. Do I have which is the Planning Commission recommendation number 20-016 and project staff report RZM 20-001 Capers Lake Overlook. Do I have a motion to remove this item from the table?
So
moved.
I heard Mr. Dicker. Do I have a second?
Second, Pat,
Ms.
yeah.
Carter? Okay, this is not, Carol, am I correct? This is not a discussable motion? Removing from the table is not open for discussion.
That's correct. Yeah, they're to remove or place on the tables without discussion.
Okay, thank you. want to go ahead and, again, take the, vote to remove from the table by roll call. Ms. Carpenter?
I'm sorry, yes.
Mr. Dickert?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
yes,
Mr. Presnell?
Yes.
Mr. Toole?
Yes.
And the chair also votes yes. It's removed from the table by an unanimous vote of 6-0. Now moving on, and this is always a little awkward for me. I'm going to make a motion to acknowledge receipt of the Planning Commission recommendation memorandum number 20-016 and project staff report RZM 20-001 Capers Lake Overlook. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. President. Now, Kelly, is that adequate, or do we need a vote on this? Can you help me
well,
out?
you know what I told you, it's kind of an unusual thing. For some reason, we've always voted to accept it, but you're acknowledging you've received it, and it may just be clear if you have in the minutes that you vote indicating that you have received the recommendation. It's not accepting it by way of approval or anything. It's just acknowledging that you have received it, because that's one of the requirements in order for you to ultimately vote on a rezone.
Okay, thank you. So I'll go ahead and call the roll again for a vote to acknowledge receipt of the report that I mentioned. Ms. Carpenter,
Yes,
Mr. Dickert,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Yes,
Mr. Presnell,
Yes.
Mr. Toole,
Yes.
and the chair also votes yes. So the council acknowledges receipt of the subject planning commission recommendation memorandum unanimously by a vote of 6-0. Moving on, item number 6, which is resolution number 2020-18, authorizing the temporary use by Superior Construction Company of plus or minus 1 acre of land owned by the city of North Augusta for a construction laydown and staging yard adjacent to the 5th Street Bridge. The chair moves to remove it from the table. Do I have a second?
second,
Ms. Carpenter? Again, we take a vote with this motion without discussion. Ms. Carpenter,
yes,
Mr. Dickert,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
yes,
Mr. Presnell,
Yes.
Mr. Toole, Mr. Toole?
Yes.
Thank you. And the chair also yes. So the motion removed from the table passes unanimously by a vote of 6-0. Now moving on to resolution number 2020-18, authorizing the temporary use by Superior Construction Company of plus or minus 1 acre of land owned by the city of North Augusta for a construction laydown and staging yard resolution adjacent to the 5th Street Bridge. Do I have a motion to approve this?
so moved,
I'll second.
Ms. Carpenter? I got Pat, David, thank you. Rachel, do you want to do a quick overview of the resolution as it's been?
Yes, this is the second time we brought this resolution to you all. The last time it was tabled, Superior Construction has requested to utilize city property for a period of 18 months as a laydown yard as they perform work on the Fifth Street Bridge, the repairs and the conversion to a pedestrian only bridge. This resolution will allow us to enter into a contract with Resolution that will require a number of things in exchange for their use of our land, in addition to ensuring that the site is cleaned up and there is no contamination left on site. We have added that the company will remunerate the city for $500 a month for the full 18 months, meaning $9,000 for the full use of our land. This was a request that you all had made the last time we had this item on the agenda. The money collected for the use of our land will be set aside in a special fund to be used for future site improvements on that particular parcel.
Thank you. Mr. Moore, were there any citizen comments on this item?
No, sir, there were no comments.
Okay, thank you. Council, any comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the vote to approve the resolution. Again, by roll call, Ms. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Dicker,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. Presnell,
Yes.
Mr. Toole.
Yes.
The chair also votes yes. The resolution passes unanimously by a vote of 6-0. Moving on to item number 7. This is resolution number 2020-25 to authorize the city to enter into an agreement establishing a procedure for compensating the Belvedere Fire District when annexations by the city reduces the Belvedere Fire District service territory. The chair moves to remove this item from the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
I heard Ms. Carpenter. Again, this is a motion without this discussion. Ms. Carpenter, to remove from the table.
Yes.
Mr. Dicker,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. Presnell,
Yes.
Mr. Toole.
Yes.
The chair also votes yes. The item is removed from the table by unanimous vote of 6-0. Now, moving on now to the resolution itself. This is resolution number 2020-25 to authorize the city to enter into an agreement establishing a procedure for compensating the Belvedere Fire District when annexations by the city reduces the Belvedere Fire District service territory. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So
Yes.
moved.
Of Mr. Toole. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Carpenter, thank you. Kelly, who's the one to discuss this a little bit? Kelly, are you or?
I can fill you in on this.
Thank you.
As you're aware, I think in February of last year, after many years of negotiating, we came to an agreement with the Belvedere Fire District that was approved by Aiken County to set forth the manner in which, if we annex property that was in their service area, that the various maps can be changed. The GIS in Aiken would provide it, and it would then show as in the North Augusta service area. That was approved, but there's another step that really needs to be taken, because that agreement provides for, and the state law provides, that anytime we annex into a special purpose district service area, that we do have the right to take over the service. But there either has to be a specific agreement with the special purpose district, or there's a procedure that it's almost an arbitration type procedure that you ultimately would have to go through to determine what compensation should be paid to them for the loss of their service area. And it would be based upon, generally it's not based upon a lot. It'd be more concerned if you took a large area, they had a fire truck that was set up to serve that area or what have you. And so there's a procedure that has to be reached. We were able to reach this agreement with them that essentially says we notify them if we annex property that's in their service area. They are to provide us information as to what the compensation is they've received the previous year for that area that we're taking from their district. And I would say generally, I think their fire fees are $50 to $100 or somewhere in that range, maybe as much as $150. I'm not totally sure. But this agreement says that we notify them, they provide us information as to what their loss of income is from that. We then agree to pay them 3 times what that 1 year loss of income is. And we have an ability to either pay it to them in full at the start. And I'm sure that anytime we're doing individual pieces of property and lots that we're talking about less than $200, that we're going to want to just go ahead and pay that up front and have it over with. But for example, if somewhere along the way, and I don't see it happening now, but if we were to take in a very large area that encompassed a bigger section of their district, then we would be able to pay that out over this 5-year period if we chose to do it in that manner. This just is just the final step that kind of takes it from back and forth as to annexed area to have a set procedure that shows what we have to do, what they have to do, and then when that's done, the county accepts that and change their county maps as to the service areas, which is very important when 911 calls get to the county dispatch. They get properly dispatched to Belvedere, to North Augusta, whoever they're supposed to go to. The chief is satisfied with this. We've discussed it prior to going back to them and agreeing. And last Monday, I received information back from their attorney that this had been approved by Belvedere.
Good, thank you very much. That was comprehensive, and I appreciate it. Ms. Lamar, were there any comments from citizens?
No, sir, there were no comments.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, discussion, questions from council?
Yes. When does this start? Like now, as soon as it's approved, or what, first of the year? Or?
No, it will go back to everything that has occurred since February 5 of last year.
Yeah, okay.
That's when we entered into the agreement. We've done some annexations into the territory and had not concluded an agreement or the other process. So we will now go back, and everything's been annexed since then. We'll follow this procedure, and then the county will take all of those properties and show that the city provides the fire service for them.
And where does this money come from?
You know, I guess it would come from, I don't know whether Cammy's still on there or not, but I think it comes from the general fund, because the general fund is where the taxes go, and the taxes what are paid to fund the public safety, and that's where this is. I think I assume that's where they would come from.
Okay, and I'm sorry. Go ahead. If a fire occurs though, and it's in our district annexation and we go first, they can come, right, and assist. I mean,
Yeah,
that
we
won't
have
change any of that.
we have the interdepartmental agreements and assistance agreement, but this will establish that we are the primary provider and we will be contacted by 911 in order to do this.
Okay. Thank you.
Kelly, I have a quick question. I assume this is just a one-time fee for the annexed piece of property. It's not something we pay them every year due to loss of income, just based on the last year, correct?
It's determined that the total fee is 3 times what the 1-year loss is. And we pay that, and the territory then belongs to us.
Okay, so it's just a one-time. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like a reoccurring thing.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Good questions. Anybody else?
Yep, Mr. Mayor, if I could, Kelly, where did the multiplier come from? Is this agreement consistent with other places around the state, or did we just kind of negotiate?
It was totally a matter of negotiation. And I don't know that anywhere else around the state has any specific agreement like this. We believe that what we gain in ongoing negotiations and having to work out one individually, I mean, what we gain by being able to do it at one time and have a formula for anything we take in, more than offsets ultimately what we're paying.
Okay, so this is just something we staff on both sides mutually came to an agreement on.
That's correct.
Okay, and then I guess this is a request I would have of Cammie and Rachel is that, and when we go to do annexations that are covered by the Belvedere Fire District, I would hope that we'll put in that ordinance resolution where the money's specifically going to come from. I know this states it comes from the general fund, and I know we're, as Kelly mentioned, we may be talking in the $300 to $500 range of a fee, but when we go to procedurally annex somebody into the city, I think we should be clear when in the document exactly where within the general fund we're pulling those funds from. Those are all my comments and questions.
Thank you. Anything else? Well, I just would like to echo what Kelly said. I know several of you have been on council much longer than I know this has been a real sticking point for a long time with Belvedere when they buy equipment and things like that, with the expectation that their service area would be defined, and then we annex it and want to take it over. So I think this, as Kelly said, it's been a long time coming, and I appreciate his efforts certainly in getting there. So thank you very much, Kelly, on this. It's been painful, I know. Any other last thoughts? Okay, again, vote by roll call. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Dickert?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Presnell?
Yes.
Mr. Toole?
Yes.
And the chair also votes yes. The resolution passes unanimously, a vote of 6-0. That completes the agenda items for this evening's meeting. I don't know if I'm allowed to make any announcements or not, Kelly. Brendan did, and you can tell me I can't. The ribbon cutting for the amphitheater will be Friday the 26th at 4 p.m. It's a great facility, and I would encourage you, if your schedule allows you, to be there. we need to keep paying attention to census, returns too, because I don't have the numbers with me, but it's not what we, we're close to what the national average is, but I think we can do better. So they're the two things I think that are on my mind at this point. Is there any other comments from anyone? Okay, hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.